Hello, and welcome to Scratch Paper, a writing-related podcast. I'm Alicia de los Reyes, and this is episode 9. I've taken a couple of weeks of break. I was away on vacation, and so it's been a while since I actually wrote. So for a quick writing update, I opened up my novel, Finding Lucy, and started to kind of tweak it a bit. Just looking at the last chapter I had revised, but I haven't really started revising the next chapter yet, so I hope to do that next week. For a reading update, I really am having trouble getting into the final book of the Passing Bells trilogy, which is called A Future Arrived. I really just don't care about the characters anymore, so I'm on the hunt for another book, and I would love some recommendations. So I wanted to take a break here and say that I've really, kind of a serious note, I've really been saddened by the past few weeks' events, shootings, and by police and of police. And I wanted to talk for a minute about fiction as a force for good. Because when these things happened, I thought, maybe my writing isn't that important. I'm writing the story about a missing woman. It's not really related to anything that's going on. Let's say it gets published and someone reads it, they won't have any idea that the Black Lives Matter movement happened while I was writing this, and that's really important. But then I started thinking about, writing that I could do that would be related to it, and I think that for me is where my nonfiction comes in, where I try and write stories about people whose voices typically aren't heard in mainstream media. So that is something that I'm committed to in my nonfiction, but I don't think that it fits in, at least right now, with my fiction. So I was kind of thinking about that, and I was thinking about other fiction that I like and that has changed my life, and it doesn't necessarily tend to be kind of morals-driven or ethics-driven fiction, even though it has at times changed the way I think about the world or the way I see things. So for an example, I really love the book A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. If you ask me, what are the books that were turning points in your life? What were the books that changed your life? That definitely is one of them, top of the list. I read it when I was 12 or 13, and it's about a girl growing up in Brooklyn, and that's it. That's all the book is about. And it's about this really poor family and all the people in the family and just exactly what life is like. There's just tons of detail. It's absolutely beautifully written. You get to see this girl's transformation as she's growing into a woman, coming of age, and you view her inner life. It's really beautifully written. And that is not like Betty Smith, the author. She said she just wanted to write about what it was like to grow up poor in Brooklyn. She wasn't trying to write a book that would transform other young girls' lives and show them that the crazy, strange thoughts you have are kind of universal, and that this experience is something that everybody goes through no matter where they live and no matter what their life is like. But that's what it ended up being, and I think it's a magical book. And so I think the conclusion that I arrived at, which might not be everyone's, but the one that I arrived at is that you should write what you feel most driven to write. You never know how it's going to affect somebody. So whatever you feel called to write, whether it's, a book about growing up poor in Brooklyn, a book about your experience overseas, a book about a person in jail, a book about whatever it is, even if it's something that you think is maybe just fun and not necessarily super quote-unquote important book, you should write it, because you don't know how it's going to affect somebody. It could change somebody's life in a positive way by giving them something to laugh at and enjoy. It could change their perspective by just showing them your perspective. So I really believe in that, and I believe that you should write the book that you think you want to write. So I do have a big, that's the end of the aside. I hope that I would love to hear how you think writing can fit into kind of social action or the things that you care about in life. For me, things that are important include social justice. But yeah, I'd like to hear how you think writing fits into the important things in your life, the values that you have. I'm going to save my big lesson for next week because I think my baby is about to wake up from his nap. So you can tune back in next week for that. The lesson is going to be on the secret rules of writing, the kind of unspoken conventions that people follow, and how you can incorporate them into your own writing and make your writing better, or at least more conventional. So that will be next week. Until then, I'd love to hear comments and thoughts. You can comment on the show notes, which you can find on my website, aliciadelosreyes.com. It's ALICIA, D as in dog, E, L as in llama, OSREYES.com. And you'll find the show notes for this podcast, number 9, there. Thanks so much for listening to Scratch Paper, and I'll talk to you next week.